"Miss, please, get in the trunk, now." The words hung in the air like smoke, impossible to wave away. She sat in the back seat of the town car, her wedding dress a cloud of ivory silk and tulle around her. The bouquet, peonies and garden roses, exactly what she dreamed of since she was 12, trembled in her white-gloved hands. What? I don't understand." "Please." The driver's voice cracked with urgency. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, and what she saw there made her blood run cold. Not malice, terror. Terror for her. "Before they see you, please, miss, trust me." She should have demanded an explanation. She should have gotten out of the car, marched into that venue, and found out what insanity had possessed her driver. But something in his face, the way his weathered hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, made her move. The trunk popped open with a mechanical click. She gathered her dress, the fabric catching on her heels as she climbed out of the back seat. The parking lot of the Westlake Garden Estate stretched before her, already filling with early guests. In 45 minutes, she was supposed to walk down an aisle lined with white roses. In 45 minutes, she was supposed to become a wife. The trunk was dark, smelling of carpet cleaner and something else. Maybe sadness? How many secrets had this car carried? "I'm leaving it cracked," the driver whispered as she awkwardly folded herself into the space, her dress crushing beneath her. "You need to see. I'm so sorry, but you need to see." Through the gap, she had a perfect view of the venue's side entrance. That's when she saw him. Her fiancé, the man she'd planned to promise forever to in less than an hour, was walking across the parking lot. But he wasn't alone. Next to him, her hand nestled in his, was a woman in white. Not a bridesmaid's dress, not a guest's cocktail dress. White, ivory white, wedding white. And she was pregnant. Very, very pregnant. The world tilted sideways. She watched as he opened the door for this woman, his hand automatically going to the small of her back, the protective gesture she'd thought was uniquely hers. The woman smiled up at him, radiant, trusting, glowing with that particular happiness of impending motherhood. "I can't believe you're helping with your boss's wedding," the woman's voice carried across the parking lot. "Even on a Saturday, you're so dedicated." His response came easily, smoothly, like he'd practiced it. "Anything for extra money for our baby, sweetheart. You know that." The woman laughed. "Our little one is lucky to have such a hard-working daddy." They disappeared into the building. In the trunk, surrounded by crushed silk and shattered dreams, she finally understood. The phone calls he took in other rooms, the weekends he was traveling for work, the apartment that looked like a hotel room, the family she could never meet. She wasn't the other woman. She was an other woman. And judging by that pregnant wife's trusting smile, that woman had no idea either.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.
But to understand how she ended up hiding in a trunk on what should have been the happiest day of her life, you have to go back. Back to a rainy Tuesday in July, when the air conditioning in the coffee shop was broken and everyone was irritable except her. She'd just gotten the promotion. 3 years of 70-hour weeks, of proving herself in a company that still thought women belonged in support roles, not leadership. The email had come that morning. Director of Operations, corner office, 30% raise. She'd wanted to celebrate with someone, anyone, but her mother hadn't called her back in 2 weeks. Nothing new there. Her father had died the year before. Her best friend was on a yoga retreat in Bali, unreachable. So she sat alone in that sweltering coffee shop, laptop open, treating herself to an overpriced latte and a moment of pure satisfaction. That's when he walked in. Tall, well-dressed in a way that suggested money but not arrogance. Dark hair just starting to silver at the temples. He ordered a black coffee, no sugar, no cream, and sat at the table next to hers with a worn paperback. Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. She'd smiled at that. Who reads Russian literature in a coffee shop in July? When he knocked over his water glass reaching for his phone and the water cascaded directly onto her laptop, the panic on his face was almost comical. Oh God, I'm so sorry." He grabbed napkins, dabbing frantically at her keyboard while she pulled the laptop away from the flood. It's okay, but she was laughing. Something about his genuine distress, the way he looked like a little boy who'd broken his mother's favorite vase. "Please, let me buy you a new coffee, and pay for any repairs." "The laptop's fine, waterproof case." She held it up, dry as bone. His relief was palpable. Then he really looked at her for the first time, and something shifted in the air between them. Recognition, maybe. Not of each other, but of possibility. "I'm still buying you a coffee. It's the least I can do." One coffee became 2 hours of conversation. 2 hours became dinner plans. Dinner became a weekend trip to the coast. The coast became late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn. Phone calls became a key to his apartment, the one that, looking back, she realized was barely furnished, temporary, a stage set. 4 months after that spilled water, he proposed. They were on that same beach where they'd spent their first weekend, sunset painting the sky in shades of apricot and rose gold. He got down on one knee, right there in the sand, and the ring, a vintage Art Deco sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, caught the light like a promise. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," he said. "Marry me. Make me the luckiest man alive." She said yes before he finished the question. The ring, he'd said, was a family heirloom, from his grandmother, who'd had a love story for the ages. Looking back, she wondered if that grandmother even existed, if any of it existed. The signs were there. Of course they were. But isn't that what people always say after? "Oh, I knew something was off." Hindsight paints everything in suspicious colors. He never stayed over on weekends. "Early meetings on Mondays," he'd explain. "I need to prepare, get my head in the game." It seemed reasonable, dedicated. She'd been that same person, sacrificing everything for career advancement. He took phone calls in the other room, always. "Work drama," he'd say with an apologetic smile. "You don't want to hear about the supply chain issues." And she didn't. She had her own work drama. He had no social media presence. "I value my privacy," he'd told her on their second date. "In this day and age, putting your whole life online feels like asking for trouble." She'd actually found it refreshing. So many men she'd dated before were obsessed with their Instagram presence, their LinkedIn engagement numbers. She couldn't meet his family yet. They're traditional, old-fashioned. They'll want to meet you at the wedding, make a big thing of it. His voice carried a hint of sadness when he said it. "We're not close, but a wedding, that would bring them around." His apartment felt unlived in. The fridge held takeout containers and beer, nothing fresh. The bedroom had a bed and a dresser, nothing personal. One photograph, him on a boat, alone. "I just moved in," he'd explained. "Haven't had time to really settle. You know how it is." And she did know. She'd lived through 3 moves in 4 years, chasing career opportunities. Her own apartment was barely more personal. The restaurants were always the same ones. 3 places rotated on a schedule. "I'm a creature of habit," he'd laughed. "When I find something I like, I stick with it." She'd thought it was quirky, endearing even. But there were moments, tiny cracks in the facade. Once, 3 months into their relationship, his phone rang during dinner. He glanced at the screen and went pale, actually pale. Sent it to voicemail without a word, but his hand shook slightly as he set the phone face down on the table. "You okay?" she'd asked. "Fine, just work. It can wait." Another time, she'd suggested they take a vacation, somewhere tropical, all-inclusive. "Let's just disappear for a week," she'd said, excited, already pulling up resort websites on her phone. "I can't take a whole week off right now." His voice had an edge she'd never heard before. Then, softer, "Maybe a long weekend. I could probably swing 4 days." The long weekend never materialized. Something always came up. 2 weeks before the wedding, she'd borrowed his laptop. Hers was updating, and she needed to send an urgent email. When she opened it, his messages were on the screen. "Baby Mrs. Daddy, can't wait for you to come home. Doctor's appointment went well today. Want to see the ultrasound?" Her heart had stopped, actually stopped. She sat there, frozen, staring at those words.
When he came out of the shower, towel around his waist, she pointed at the screen with a shaking finger. He barely glanced at it. "Oh, that's from my sister. Her kid, my nephew. She's always sending me updates." He rolled his eyes affectionately. "I swear, she thinks everyone is as obsessed with that baby as she is." "Your sister's pregnant again?" A pause, barely perceptible. "Yeah, surprise pregnancy. She's due in about 3 months." "I didn't know you had a nephew." "Matthew. He's 2. Cute kid, obsessed with trucks." The details rolled off his tongue so smoothly. "You'll meet them all at the wedding." She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. The wedding invitations were already sent. The deposits were paid. Her mother had actually called her back for the first time in months to discuss the guest list. Her small, fractured family was coming together for this. She couldn't lose that, couldn't lose him, couldn't face being alone again. So she nodded, smiled, let it go. 1 week before the wedding, a woman called her phone by mistake. The number was local but unfamiliar. "Hello?" "Hi, yes, I'm trying to reach—" A pause. The woman sounded confused. "Is this—" "I'm sorry, I think I have the wrong number. I was calling about a work matter." In the background, clear as day, a baby crying. Not toddler tantrum crying, newborn crying. "Who were you trying to reach?" Never mind. Sorry to bother you." The woman hung up.
She'd stared at her phone for 10 minutes after that call, her mind racing. But it could have been anyone. A wrong number was a wrong number. 3 days before the wedding, she'd borrowed his car to run errands. Her car was in the shop, and he'd insisted. "What's mine is yours, babe. Soon it'll be official." The hospital bracelet was on the floor of the passenger seat. Small, plastic, the kind they put on patients during admission. She picked it up without thinking, then froze when she read it. A woman's name she didn't recognize. A date from 2 months ago. Maternity ward. He'd been out of town that weekend, or so he'd said, a work conference in Atlanta. When she asked him about it that night, he'd frowned. Then his face cleared. "Oh, that! Yeah, my colleague had an emergency. Her husband was out of town and she went into early labor. I drove her to the hospital, stayed until her family arrived. Scary situation." He'd shaken his head. "Everything turned out fine, though. Healthy baby girl." "You never mentioned it." "Didn't I?" He'd pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "Must have slipped my mind. It was a crazy week." She'd let it go. Again. Because in 3 days, she was getting married. In 3 days, she'd have a family again. Someone who chose her. Someone who stayed. She couldn't let that go. Not over a hospital bracelet. Not over mysterious text messages. Not over a wrong number phone call. She wouldn't be that paranoid woman. That insecure woman. She was stronger than that. Wasn't she? But here's the thing about secrets. They're rarely as secret as we think. Her best friend since college. The one on that yoga retreat. The one she'd roomed with for 3 years. The one who'd held her hair back during food poisoning and held her hand at her father's funeral. She knew. 3 months before the engagement, she'd been having dinner with her own family at a casual Italian place across town. The kind of neighborhood spot where locals go. Nothing fancy. She was laughing at something her nephew said when she glanced up and saw him. Her best friend's new boyfriend. The one she'd been gushing about for weeks. The one who'd finally made her smile again after the devastating year she'd had. But he wasn't alone. He was with a woman. A pregnant woman. And the way he looked at her, the way his hand rested protectively on her belly, the way he leaned in to kiss her forehead when she laughed, that wasn't casual. That wasn't a friend. That wasn't a colleague. The best friend pulled out her phone, hands shaking, and took 3 photos. Evidence. Proof. Her friend needed to know. But then she thought about her friend's face when she talked about him. The light that had finally returned to her eyes. The way she'd stopped having that haunted look she'd carried since her father died. This relationship had done that. This man had done that. What if she was wrong? What if the woman was his sister? What if there was a reasonable explanation? What if she destroyed her best friend's happiness over a misunderstanding? She deleted the photos. She told herself she was protecting her friend, giving her this moment of joy. Everyone deserved happiness, didn't they? But late at night, alone in her own bed, she knew the truth. She was a coward. She didn't want to be the villain in her best friend's story, didn't want to be the one who ruined everything, didn't want to risk being wrong and losing the friendship entirely. So she said nothing. The cousin knew too, the one who worked in corporate finance, who moved in the same professional circles. She'd heard the rumors at a networking event 6 months ago. "You know someone getting married soon?" a colleague had asked, making small talk over cocktails. "Yeah, my cousin, June wedding." "What's the lucky guy's name?" She'd told him, proud. Her cousin was finally settling down with someone who seemed solid, dependable. The colleague's face had changed. "Huh, same name as a guy in my wife's company. He just had a baby." Well, his wife did. Boy, I think? Or maybe it was a girl, can't remember. Must be a different person. Yeah, must be. But the colleague's tone suggested otherwise. The cousin had Googled him that night, found the wife's Facebook profile, not private, open for the world to see. Photos of date nights, pregnancy announcements, a nursery being painted pale yellow, getting ready for our little miracle. The wedding was announced. Same man, same face, same smile. She could have said something, should have said something, but their family was already broken. Her aunt, the bride's mother, hadn't spoken to the bride in over a year. Some fight about the father's will, about money, about old resentments that festered like infected wounds. The wedding was the first time everyone would be in the same room since the funeral. Maybe this wedding would heal things. Maybe it would bring them back together. Maybe the mother would finally see her daughter happy and remember how to love her. And maybe, just maybe, the rumors were wrong. People got names confused all the time. So the cousin said nothing and told herself it was for the family's sake. The coworker knew too, the one she had lunch with every Thursday, the one she'd confided in about everything from work frustrations to relationship joys. She'd seen the wife's Instagram. It had been an accident, really. The coworker was scrolling through recommendations one night, and there she was, the wife, posting about her pregnancy journey, posting about her husband, tagging him, though his profile was private.
But the photos. The coworker recognized him immediately from the pictures her friend showed her. The same man, no question. She'd wanted to say something, had drafted a dozen messages. "Hey, I need to talk to you about something. Can we grab coffee? It's important. I saw something you should know about." But they weren't that close, were they? They were work friends, lunch friends, not real friends, not drop a bomb on your entire life friends. And what if she was wrong? What if it was an elaborate joke, or an old profile, or some weird coincidence? She'd look like a gossip, a troublemaker. The office would talk. Her reputation would suffer, maybe even her career. People didn't like messengers who brought bad news. Someone closer would tell her, surely. A best friend, a family member, someone who had that right. So the coworker said nothing and told herself it wasn't her place. Even the woman who sold her the wedding dress knew. The boutique was small, exclusive, the kind of place where the owner remembered every bride. She'd been in business for 30 years, had dressed 3 generations of women in some families. When she walked in with her fiancé to look at dresses, he wanted to see the options, help her choose, be involved. The owner's face had gone carefully blank. She'd dressed this man's wife the year before for their vow renewal ceremony on their 4th anniversary. The wife had shown everyone in the shop the photos from their wedding, gushing about how lucky she was. 4 years and I love him more every day. The owner had fitted that woman into a beautiful champagne dress, had listened to her talk about trying for a baby, about their plans for the future. And now here was the same man with a different woman picking out a wedding dress. The owner could have said something, should have said something. But it was business, just business. She sold dresses, not morality. And maybe they'd gotten divorced. People renewed vows, then split up all the time. Maybe the situation was complicated. Besides, she had bills to pay, a shop to run. Speaking up could mean drama, bad reviews, complications. Not her circus, not her monkeys. So she smiled, brought out dresses, made suggestions, and said nothing about the woman who'd stood in this same spot a year ago, glowing with love for the same man. All these people, all these secrets, all these justifications, and all of them telling themselves they were doing the right thing. But the driver was different. 72 years old, with hands that had gripped steering wheels for more cars than he could count.
43 years in the business. He'd driven everyone from celebrities to CEOs to brides on their wedding days. He prided himself on discretion, on professionalism, on being invisible when needed, present when required. He'd seen things over the years. Affairs conducted in back seats, business deals made and broken, secrets whispered into phones, tears shed in privacy, joy expressed without restraint. He never told. That was the rule. What happened in his car stayed in his car. But 20 years ago, he'd driven his daughter to her wedding, watched her walk down the aisle in a dress that cost more than his car, given her away with tears in his eyes, welcomed his new son-in-law into the family with genuine warmth. 3 years later, he'd learned the truth. The son-in-law had been cheating the entire time, before the wedding, during the engagement, on the honeymoon. 3 years of lies, of other women, of a secret apartment across town. His daughter had been devastated. "Didn't you notice anything, Dad? When you drove us around, helped us with errands? Didn't you see any signs?" He'd searched his memory desperately. And yes, there had been signs. Phone calls the son-in-law took outside, addresses he'd driven to that seemed odd for someone who lived where he claimed, women's perfume in the car that didn't match his daughter's scent. But he'd said nothing. It wasn't his place. The man had seemed to make his daughter happy. "I won't make that mistake again," he'd told himself. The week before this wedding, he'd picked up the groom from a suburban address. Nice neighborhood, tree-lined streets, the kind of place young families moved to for good schools. He'd pulled up to the house at 7 a.m. as requested. The groom had come out, kissed a pregnant woman goodbye on the doorstep. A long, tender kiss, his hand on her belly, her hand on his cheek. The driver had frozen, hands on the wheel, watching in the rear view. The groom got in the car, checking his phone, oblivious. "Morning," he'd said cheerfully. "Got an early meeting across town." The driver had driven in silence, mind racing. Maybe it was his sister, his friend, some innocent explanation. But the way they'd kissed, the familiarity, the intimacy. That night, the driver couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., he'd done what he swore he'd never do. He'd Googled the groom's name. Found the wife's social media in minutes. She wasn't hiding. Why would she? She had nothing to hide. Pregnancy photos, 20 weeks today, nursery preparations, anniversary posts, 5 years with my best friend and the love of my life. Wedding photos from 5 years ago. The same man, younger, thinner, but unmistakably him. And photos of date nights, vacations, lazy Sunday mornings, all time-stamped, all recent, all overlapping with the time the driver knew the groom was seeing the bride. The driver had sat there, laptop glowing in the darkness, and felt sick. He had to tell her, had to warn her. But how? He was just a driver. She barely knew him. Would she even believe him? And if he was wrong, if somehow there was an explanation, he'd lose his job. The company would fire him for harassment, for overstepping, for violating the cardinal rule, stay out of clients' personal lives. But his daughter's voice echoed in his memory. "Didn't you notice anything, Dad?" He couldn't let another woman walk into that trap, not when he knew, not when he could prevent it. So he decided. The morning of the wedding, he'd tell her, give her the information, let her make her own choice. He'd arrived early, an hour before the scheduled pickup time, sat in the car, rehearsing what he'd say. "Miss, I have some information you need to know." No, too formal. "I'm sorry, but I've discovered something about your fiancé." Too dramatic. When she came out with her bridesmaids, all laughter and champagne giggles, his courage had faltered. She looked so happy, radiant, like every bride should look on her wedding day. Maybe he could pull her aside at the venue, speak to her privately, away from the bridesmaids' excitement. He'd driven slowly, carefully, buying time, thinking. They pulled up to the Westlake Garden estate 45 minutes before the ceremony. The bridesmaids tumbled out, laughing, saying they'd go check on last-minute details. The bride stayed in the car, touching up her makeup, taking a moment of quiet before the chaos.
This was his chance. He opened his mouth to speak, and that's when he saw them. The groom's car pulling into the side parking lot, and in the passenger seat, visible even from a distance, the pregnant wife in white. The driver's mind went blank with panic. What was happening? Was the groom bringing his wife to watch him marry someone else? Was this some sick game? Then he saw the groom's face as he parked. Casual, relaxed. He was saying something to his wife, laughing, and the driver understood. The groom was playing some kind of sick double game, telling his wife he was here for work, probably told her he was helping set up or coordinating something for his boss. The wife would be inside, somewhere in the building, maybe waiting in a side room, trusting, unsuspecting. And the groom would marry this woman while his pregnant wife waited, believing the lie. The driver looked at the bride in his rearview mirror, still checking her lipstick, unaware that her entire world was about to implode. There was no time for a gentle conversation, no time for careful explanations. "Miss, please, get in the trunk now."
From inside the trunk, crammed into impossible positions, wedding dress crushing beneath her, she watched them disappear into the building. The driver's voice came through the crack. "I'm so sorry. I know this is insane, but I found out about her a week ago. His wife. I was going to tell you. I swear I was going to tell you." "How long?" Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "How long has he been married?" 5 years. They're celebrating their anniversary next month. 5 years. She'd known him for 6 months, been engaged for 2. The math was simple, devastating, clear. And the baby? Due in 3 months. It's a boy. A boy. They talked about children, she and her almost husband. He'd said he wanted to wait a few years. Let's enjoy being married first, travel, build our careers. All lies. He already had a child coming, already had a life, a real life, a whole, complete life. And she was what? A diversion? A backup plan? A game? Why is she here? The question came out as a whisper. I don't know, but from what I heard her say, he told her he's working, helping his boss with something at this wedding venue. She doesn't know. She has no idea. Another victim. Another woman he was manipulating, lying to, destroying. I need to get out. Wait, the driver's voice was urgent. Think for a moment. You're about to walk into that building. Your guests are arriving, your family, your friends. Everyone you invited is going to be there in 30 minutes. I can't marry him. I know, but think about how you want to handle this. You can leave now, just walk away, or you can confront him, or... I need to talk to her, the wife. She deserves to know. The driver was quiet for a moment. That's very compassionate of you, miss, after what you've just learned. It's not compassion. It's survival. She pushed open the trunk, crawling out in a tangle of silk and tulle. If I don't face this, if I run away, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I imagined it, if it was real. I need to see his face when I confront him. I need her to know who he really is. Her makeup was ruined, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Her hair, which had taken 3 hours to perfect, was coming loose from its pins. She looked like exactly what she was, a bride whose wedding had died before it began. Where would she be? The driver thought for a moment. He went to the groom's preparation room. It's on the east side. If he told her to wait somewhere, she's probably there. He pointed to a small sitting area visible through a side window. That's the family waiting area. I can see her from here. The pregnant woman sat alone, scrolling through her phone, one hand unconsciously rubbing her belly. She looked peaceful, content, trusting. I can't just walk in there. My guests, the wedding party, they're all inside. Service entrance. The driver pointed to a side door. I've driven enough weddings to know the layout. That door leads to a back hallway. You can get to the family area without going through the main building. She nodded, then hesitated. Thank you for telling me, for all of this. I should have told you sooner. You told me in time. That's what matters. She walked toward the service entrance on unsteady heels, her bouquet forgotten in the car.
Through the windows, she could see guests arriving, her mother's car pulling up, her cousin waving to someone, her coworker from the office dressed in a cheerful yellow dress. All these people coming to celebrate a lie. The service entrance was unlocked. The hallway was dim, lined with storage closets and staff-only rooms. She could hear music starting in the main hall. Someone was testing the sound system. The family waiting area was just ahead. Through the doorway, she could see the pregnant woman, still alone, still peaceful. She stepped into the room. The woman looked up startled, then smiled. "Oh, you're the bride. You look beautiful, even—" She stopped, taking in the ruined makeup, the disheveled hair. "Are you okay?" "No." The word came out steady, certain. "No, I'm not, and neither are you. We need to talk." The pregnant woman's name was Catherine. She was 29 years old, worked as a pediatric nurse, and had been married for 5 years to the man she called her soulmate. She sat across from the bride in the small waiting room, her face cycling through confusion, denial, anger, and finally, devastation. "You're lying. You have to be lying. This is some kind of prank or a mistake or—" The bride pulled out her phone, showed her everything, photos of them together, text messages, the engagement announcement she'd posted on social media 6 months ago, the wedding invitation, everything. Catherine's hands shook as she scrolled through the evidence. "But he was home with me 6 months ago. He's always home. He travels sometimes for work, but—" Her voice broke. "He's always home." "The restaurants you went to for date nights? Were they always the same 3 places?" Catherine's face went pale. "How did you—" "Yes, he said he liked routine." "Did he ever stay out late on weekdays? Say he had meetings, client dinners?" "Sometimes, but that's normal. He works hard. He's been saving for the baby, picking up extra projects." She stopped, looked down at her belly. "Oh, God! Oh, God, the baby!" "When is he supposed to pick you up from here?" 2 hours. He said his boss needed help with something, that he'd drive me home after. I've been having trouble driving myself lately. The belly gets in the way." She laughed, a broken sound. "He's been so attentive, so caring, making sure I don't overdo it." The bride felt rage building in her chest, not at Catherine, at him, at the man who could do this, who could be so tender to his pregnant wife while planning to marry someone else. "Where is he now?" Catherine asked. "The groom's room, getting ready for the ceremony." "I want to see him. I want to hear him explain this." Catherine stood, awkward with her belly, her white maternity dress suddenly looking obscene, wedding colors for a wedding that wasn't hers. "Wait!" The bride caught her arm. "Your dress. Why are you wearing white?" "It's our anniversary next month, 5 years. He said he wanted to renew our vows, make it special. I found this dress on sale, sent him a picture, asked if he liked it. He said it was perfect, that I looked like an angel." Tears streamed down her face. "I wore it today because I wanted him to see it, to remember why he fell in love with me." The cruelty of it was breathtaking. He'd let his wife wear white to her own humiliation, had probably gotten some sick thrill out of it. "Come on." The bride took Catherine's hand. "Let's go talk to him, together." They walked through the hallways like ghosts in white, 2 brides for 1 groom. Behind them, the bride could hear her wedding starting, the music changing, someone calling her name. Where's the bride? Has anyone seen her? The groom's room was at the end of a long corridor. Through the door, they could hear male laughter. His groomsman, probably. His best man, the college friend she'd met twice. The bride didn't knock, just opened the door. 6 men in tuxedos turned to stare, but she only saw one face, his face. The color drained from it when he saw them together, both of them, both in white. "Catherine," he stepped forward. "Baby, what are you doing here? I told you to wait and—" "Don't." Catherine's voice was steel. "Don't you dare call me baby. Don't you dare talk to me like everything's normal." The best man looked between the 3 of them, confused. "Dude, what's going on? Why is there another woman in a wedding dress?" That, the bride said clearly, is his wife, his pregnant wife. They've been married for 5 years. Did any of you know? The groomsmen's faces told the story. Shock, genuine shock. They hadn't known either. You're married? The best man stared at his friend. You've been married this whole time? I can explain. He was looking between both women now, panicking, calculating. This is a misunderstanding. Catherine, baby, I swear. Stop lying. Catherine's voice broke. Just stop lying. I saw the photos, the messages, the wedding invitations. I saw everything. You weren't supposed to find out like this. The words came out before he could stop them. Silence fell like a hammer. So it's true, Catherine whispered. You were really going to do this? Marry me while married to her? With our baby? She pressed her hands to her belly. How? How could you?
Because I could. His face changed then. The mask dropped completely. No more charm, no more tenderness, just cold calculation. Because you were both easy to manipulate. You believed everything I told you, both of you. It was almost boring how easy it was. The bride felt something shatter inside her. Not her heart, that had broken in the trunk. This was something deeper, her sense of reality, her ability to trust her own judgment. Why? She asked. Why do this? If you were married, why propose? Why go through with a whole wedding? Why not? He shrugged. Catherine has money from her trust fund. You have a great job, great connections. Why choose when I could have both? The setup was perfect. Catherine thinks I'm traveling for work. You think I'm visiting my family. Neither of you talk to each other's worlds. It was simple. It would have stayed simple if you just stayed in the car like a good bride. One of the groomsmen moved toward him. You're a monster. I'm practical. He straightened his tie, casual, unconcerned. Look, this is awkward, I'll admit, but we're all adults here. We can work this out. Catherine, baby, come on, you know you love me. And you, he turned to the bride, you were just talking about how excited you were to start our life together. That doesn't have to change. We can still... Catherine slapped him. The sound echoed in the small room. We're done, she said quietly. I'm leaving. I'm taking my baby, my trust fund, and my self-respect, and I'm leaving. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. She turned to the bride. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. If you need anything, testimony, evidence, whatever, call me. She pulled out her phone, handed it over. Put your number in. The bride took the phone, fingers numb, typed her number in, handed it back. Thank you, she said, for believing me, for standing with me. Thank you for telling me. Catherine's smile was sad. Better now than after the baby comes. Better now than 5 more years of lies. She walked out, head high, one hand on her belly. The bride turned to look at him one last time. This man she'd thought she'd spent her life with. This stranger. You should know, she said quietly, that there were people who knew about her. My best friend saw you together. My cousin heard rumors. My coworker saw her social media. The woman who sold me my dress had fitted her for her vow renewal dress. Even she knew. His eyebrows rose. And they didn't tell you? No. They all had their reasons. Good reasons, they thought. Protecting me, protecting themselves. Not their place, not their business. She paused. But a stranger told me. A driver I'd met 3 times told me because he had the courage they didn't. Well, I guess you know who your real friends are now. I guess I do. She walked out of that room, past the groomsmen standing in shocked silence, past her bridesmaids who were running toward her asking what happened, past the guests who'd started to fill the venue, out to the parking lot where the driver waited by his car. Thank you, she told him. Thank you for being brave enough to ruin my wedding. Is the other lady okay? She will be. We both will be. She looked back at the building. I need to tell everyone, the guests, my family. They need to know why this wedding isn't happening. You don't owe anyone an explanation, miss. I owe myself one. I need to say it out loud, make it real, or I'll spend years wondering if I imagined it. She walked back inside, stood at the front of the venue where she was supposed to say her vows. Everyone fell silent when they saw her. Her mother sitting stiff in the front row, Her cousin, guilt written across her face. Her best friend, newly returned from Bali, confusion in her eyes. Her coworker, already half standing, ready to help. "There's not going to be a wedding," she said clearly. "The groom is married, has been for 5 years. His pregnant wife is here. Some of you knew, some of you suspected. None of you told me." Gasps, murmurs, shock rippling through the crowd. "I don't blame you," she continued. "I understand why you stayed silent. Fear, uncertainty, not wanting to be the messenger, all valid reasons. But I want you to know something. A stranger saved me. A man I barely knew had the courage to tell me the truth, and I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life." She looked at her best friend. "You saw him with her, didn't you, months ago?" The best friend's face crumpled. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you." "I know, but you weren't. You were protecting yourself from having to be the bad guy." The bride's voice was gentle but firm. "That's okay. I forgive you. But I need you to know that silence isn't kindness, not when the truth could save someone." She turned to her cousin. "You heard rumors." The cousin nodded, tears streaming. "I should have told you." "Yes, you should have, but I understand why you didn't." To her coworker, "You saw his wife's social media." "I'm so sorry. I thought it wasn't my place." "It's okay. I understand." And finally, to the boutique owner sitting in the back row, "You dressed his wife for her vow renewal, didn't you?" The woman stood, face red. "I'm so sorry. It was wrong. I should have." "You should have, but you didn't. And I forgive you too, all of you, because I understand. Fear is powerful. Doubt is powerful. The desire to not be the villain in someone's story is incredibly powerful." She took a breath. "But I hope you'll remember this. Remember what your silence cost. Not just me, his wife too. Catherine, a woman who deserves better than this. A woman who'll be raising a child alone now because no one had the courage to tell the truth sooner. I'm leaving now. The venue is paid for, the food is ordered. Stay if you want, eat, drink, celebrate that I dodged a bullet. Or go home. I don't care, but remember this day. Remember what happened when everyone decided that silence was safer than truth." She walked back out, the driver holding the car door open. "Where to, miss?" "Anywhere but here." The police found the body on Monday morning. A jogger called it in, her voice shaking. "There's a man in the park, by the lake. I think he's dead." The detective who caught the case was a woman in her 50s, tired eyes, good instincts. She stood over the body and knew immediately this wasn't random. He'd been shot twice, once in the chest, once in the head. Professional, deliberate. The gun was nowhere to be found. His wallet was still in his pocket, money and credit cards intact. His watch, expensive, still on his wrist. This wasn't a robbery. It was execution. "ID says his name is—" The younger officer checked the license. "Registered to an address in the suburbs. Married. We should notify next of kin." But when they arrived at the suburban address, the house was empty. Cleaned out. Not a stick of furniture, not a photograph on the walls. Just empty rooms and the echo of footsteps. A neighbor saw them and came over. "Are you looking for the woman who lived here? She moved out Saturday night and took everything. Had a moving truck and everything." "Saturday night?" The detective checked her notes. "This past Saturday?" "Yeah. I thought it was weird, moving in the middle of the night. But she was pregnant, looked upset. I didn't want to bother her." The detective's instincts tingled. "Did you see anyone with her, helping her move?" "No, she was alone. Well, except for the moving company guys." Back at the station, the detective started pulling threads. Marriage license, 5 years. Wife's name, Catherine. Pediatric nurse. Family money. But there was more. An engagement announcement from 6 months ago, to a different woman. A wedding that was supposed to happen that Saturday. The detective found the venue, talked to the staff, got the whole story. 2 brides showed up, the event coordinator said, still shocked, in both white. It was insane.
The wedding was called off, the groom left, his groomsmen left, everyone left. The one bride, the one who was supposed to get married, she made this announcement to all the guests, about him being married, about his wife being pregnant. It was devastating. Where did the groom go after? I don't know, he just left. The detective tracked down the best man. He was reluctant to talk at first, then the whole story spilled out. None of us knew he was married. We thought we were standing up for our buddy at his wedding. When that pregnant woman walked in, when the truth came out, he shook his head. We all left, told him he was on his own, that we wanted nothing to do with him. Did he seem angry, upset? More like annoyed, like it was an inconvenience. He kept saying he'd fix it, that it wasn't a big deal. That made it worse, honestly, how calm he was about destroying 2 women's lives. Did he say anything about going anywhere, meeting anyone? No, he just left, said he needed to think. The detective found the bride next. She was staying at a hotel, temporary housing, while she figured out her next move.
The detective went back to the beginning, re-interviewed everyone, the groomsmen, the best friend, the cousin, the co-worker, the boutique owner. All had alibis, all checked out. She found the driver next. He'd been easy to track through the car service company. He answered the door of his small apartment looking older than his 72 years, but his eyes were clear, sharp. "I wondered when you'd come," he said. "Where were you Sunday night between 9 p.m. and midnight? Home? Alone? Watching the news? I can't prove it. Did you kill him?" "No." He met her eyes steadily. "But I would have if I'd had the chance, if I'd thought I could get away with it. What he did to those women, what he was going to do, it was evil, pure evil." "But you didn't." "No. I'm too old, too slow. My hands shake. I couldn't shoot straight if my life depended on it." He held up his hands. Sure enough, a slight tremor. "Parkinson's, early stage. I'm retiring next month." The detective believed him too. She pulled phone records, bank statements, security footage from every camera within a mile of the murder scene. And there, on footage from a gas station 2 blocks from the park, she saw it. A car, pulling in at 8:47 p.m., a woman getting out, pumping gas, going inside to pay, her face partially visible on the security camera. The best friend. The detective watched the tape again, and again. The best friend filling up her tank, looking nervous, glancing around. She pulled the woman's phone records. There was a call to a burner phone at 9:03 p.m. The burner phone pinged off a tower near the park at 9:03 p.m. The detective brought the best friend in for questioning. She broke under 2 hours. "I didn't pull the trigger," she said, tears streaming. "I swear I didn't. I gave someone information, where he'd be, what time." "Who?" "I don't know his name. I found him online, one of those dark web things. My cousin showed me how." She was shaking. She was my best friend, and I'd failed her. I'd seen him with his wife and said nothing. I'd let her walk into that wedding thinking everything was fine. I'd been a coward." "So you hired someone to kill him?" "I wanted him to pay. I wanted him to suffer. Not her. She'd suffered enough. Him." Her voice rose. "He deserved it. You read what he did, how he manipulated both of them, how he was going to keep doing it. How many other women was he doing this to? How many other lives was he ruining?" "That doesn't give you the right to kill him." "I know," she slumped. "I know. But I couldn't live with myself if I did nothing again. I'd already failed her once. I couldn't fail her again." The detective arrested her. Murder for hire. The evidence was circumstantial, but strong enough. The case made headlines. Wedding day exposed secret marriage. Best friend hired hitman for revenge. The bride read about it in her hotel room and felt nothing. Numb. Empty. Her best friend had tried to protect her through murder. Her cousin, co-worker, everyone who'd stayed silent, they'd come forward now, racked with guilt, offering statements to the police. "If we'd just told her," her cousin said on the news, "if we'd been brave enough to tell her the truth from the start, none of this would have happened." But would it have changed anything? The bride wondered. If they'd told her 3 months ago, would she have believed them? Or would she have defended him, made excuses, convinced herself they were wrong? Maybe silence hadn't been their only failing. Maybe she'd made herself easy to deceive, desperate for love after her father's death, after the promotion that left her isolated, after years of failed relationships. Maybe they were all complicit in their own ways. Catherine called her on Wednesday, 3 days after the murder. "I heard about your friend," she said. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" The bride's voice was hollow. "She killed him for me. For us." "I know, and part of me wants to be grateful, but another part of me," Catherine trailed off. "He was the father of my child. My baby will grow up knowing his father was murdered. That's a heavy thing to carry." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. None of this is your fault, or mine. It's his, all of it." A pause. "I wanted to ask you something. The driver, the one who told you, do you have his contact information?" "Yes." "Why?" "I want to thank him. He saved both of us from years of lies, maybe our whole lives. I want him to know that what he did mattered." The bride gave her the information, hung up, sat in the silence of her hotel room. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mother. "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me. I'm sorry I let our fight keep me from protecting you. Can we talk?" Another text, her cousin. "I know you said you forgive me, but I can't forgive myself. What can I do to make this right?" Another, her coworker. "I should have told you. I'm so sorry. I was a coward." All of them reaching out now that it was too late, now that a man was dead and her best friend was facing murder charges. But maybe that was the point. Maybe it was never too late to try, to reach out, to rebuild, to learn. The bride picked up her phone and started typing responses. "Mom, yes, let's talk. I'd like that." "Cousin, you can't change the past. Neither can I, but we can choose what we do next." "Coworker, I know. I forgive you. Let's have coffee next week." Small steps, tiny acts of rebuilding, not because it would fix anything, but because staying broken felt worse. She texted the driver too. "Catherine wants to thank you. I want to thank you too. You saved our lives, literally. Whatever happens next, I need you to know that." His response came quickly. "I'm just sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I should have called you the moment I found out, not waited until your wedding day. You told me in time. That's what matters. You gave me a choice. That's more than anyone else did." Another text came through. Unknown number. She almost deleted it, then stopped. "This is Catherine. I wanted to say something to you directly, not through the driver. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for not letting me sit in that waiting room while he married someone else. Thank you for treating me like a person, not a problem. I'll never forget that." The bride stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "Thank you for believing me, for standing with me. We're going to be okay, both of us." And maybe they would be. Maybe Catherine would have her baby and build a life free from lies. Maybe the bride would learn to trust again, to open her heart without losing her mind. Maybe her best friend would serve her time and find some kind of peace with what she'd done. Maybe the guilt would eat her alive. There was no way to know. But the truth was out. The lies were over. The man who'd woven them was gone. And in the wreckage, 2 women had found each other. Not as rivals, not as victims, but as survivors. 6 months later, the bride stood in a different kind of venue. Not a wedding hall, a courtroom. Her best friend's trial was ending. The defense had argued temporary insanity, diminished capacity, emotional distress. The prosecution had argued cold premeditation, burner phones, dark web contacts, careful planning. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty. Murder for hire. 15 to life. The bride watched her best friend be led away in handcuffs and felt her heart break all over again. For the friendship that was, for the person her friend had been before guilt and rage had consumed her. Outside the courthouse, Catherine waited. 8 months pregnant now, belly enormous, glowing despite everything. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I don't know. You?" "Same." Catherine shifted her weight, uncomfortable. "I keep thinking about what she said, your friend, during her testimony, about how she couldn't live with herself if she did nothing, about how she'd already failed you once." "I know. The thing is, I understand it. If someone had hurt you, really hurt you, and I'd had the chance to make them pay, to protect you from ever being hurt like that again," Catherine looked down at her belly, "I think I might have done the same thing. That doesn't make it right." "No, but it makes it human." Catherine met her eyes. "We're all just trying to protect the people we love. Sometimes we do it by staying silent. Sometimes we do it by speaking up. And sometimes," she gestured toward the courthouse, "sometimes we do it by going too far." The bride didn't have an answer for that. They stood together in silence, 2 women bound by the worst day of their lives, watching the courthouse empty. "I'm moving," Catherine said, finally, "after the baby comes, somewhere new, somewhere he never was. I don't want my son growing up in the shadow of this." "That makes sense. Come visit sometime. When you're ready. When enough time has passed." Catherine smiled sadly. "I know it's weird, us being friends, but I feel like we're the only ones who really understand what happened, what it cost." "I'd like that." They exchanged one more look, then Catherine waddled to her car, one hand supporting her back. The bride watched her drive away, then turned to find the driver waiting by his car. He'd insisted on bringing her to the trial. "You shouldn't be alone for this," he'd said. "Ready to go home?" he asked. "Yes, please." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then the driver spoke. "I heard from Catherine last week. She sent me a photo. The nursery is finished. Yellow walls, little ducks on the border." "That's nice." "She said to tell you that she named the baby after you. Well, the male version of your name. Said she wanted him to have a connection to the person who saved his mother." The bride felt tears prick her eyes. She didn't have to do that. She wanted to. Said every time she looks at her son, she'll remember that sometimes strangers show more courage than friends, that sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing, that truth matters more than comfort. They pulled up to her apartment, not the hotel anymore. She'd found a small place, nothing fancy, but hers, a fresh start. "Thank you," she told the driver, "for everything. Not just telling me, for being there through all of this, for driving me to the trial, for caring." "I did what anyone should have done," he smiled. "But you're welcome. Take care of yourself, miss. You too." She climbed out of the car, walked to her apartment, closed the door behind her. In the silence, she finally let herself cry, for the wedding that never happened, for the best friend in prison, for the man who'd deserved justice, but not death, for Catherine raising a baby alone, for all the broken pieces that could never be put back together. But also for the truth, for being saved, for having a choice, for surviving. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is your cousin. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm in therapy now, learning about why I stayed silent, about my own fears and failures. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better." Another text, her coworker. "Started a blog about speaking up when it's hard, about the cost of silence, using our story, anonymously of course, hope that's okay." Another, her mother. "Lunch this Sunday. I'm cooking your father's recipe, the one you loved." All of them trying, failing sometimes, but trying. The bride looked around her small apartment, at the walls that held no memories of him,
at the life she was building from scratch. She picked up her phone and started a group text. Her cousin, her coworker, her mother. "Sunday lunch sounds good. Let's make it a regular thing. All of us. We have a lot to talk about." Then she added one more number. "Catherine's. You're invited too, if you're up for the drive. Bring the baby when he comes. I'd love to meet him." The responses came quickly. "Yes, definitely. I'll be there. Thank you." And maybe that was how healing started. Not with grand gestures or perfect apologies, but with Sunday lunches, with trying, with showing up even when it was hard. The man who'd lied to them was dead. The friend who killed him was in prison. The wedding that never happened was just a ghost story now. But they were alive, broken but alive, and sometimes that had to be enough. The bride set her phone down and looked at the calendar on her wall. 48 hours from a murder that changed everything. 6 months from a wedding that never was. A lifetime ahead to figure out who she was without him. She took a deep breath and started making dinner. Something simple, something just for her. And for the first time since hiding in that trunk, watching her world fall apart, she felt something like hope. Not happiness, not yet, maybe not for a long time, but hope. That was enough. That was a start.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.